Hey, folks, you're listening to the Jobs Podcast. I'm your host, Tim Hendricks, and today we have someone, if you're into woodworking, my guest needs no introduction. He has a very successful YouTube channel. He's got a podcast. He has an Etsy store. The gentleman has created quite an impressive woodworking empire with just some borrowed tools, and his name is Matt Outlaw. You can find him at 731 Woodworks all over the place on social media. Matt, thanks for joining me today.
Hey, man. Thank you for having me.
So let's go ahead and start off, Matt. Give the listeners a little bit of backstory, kind of about where you were born, a little bit of your upbringing, early influences, and how the woodworking stuff kind of panned out.
I was born in South Arkansas, a little old town called Hermitage. That's where I went to school. I think my graduating class had about 30 people in it, including myself. Um, from there, my dad was always in construction or some type of construction. We grew up on a farm. And so that's kind of where I guess the building stuff come around because we just kind of built and fixed things as we needed to. Then when I graduated high school, I didn't really have any plans. I didn't really think I didn't know what I was going to do. So I went to work in construction with my dad and kind of from there, like wasn't really woodworking. It was just rough construction, concrete work, pipe fitting, that kind of stuff. So uh, after the years go by, I wound up being a state trooper for a while. And then while I was doing that's when I got into woodworking.
The shifting gears from being a state trooper with the last name of Outlaw, you probably got some comments on that, didn't you?
Pretty regular.
Yeah. So what was the shift from leaving law enforcement? That had to be a big step of faith to move into woodworking as a full-time job. What was the drive behind that?
Well, I'm a Christian. I believe I was led to do it. So I felt like I was led to become a state trooper, and then that mission ended. You know, I was 13 years in, and everything on the channel, the YouTube channel, and it was taken off. And uh, the business woodworking was doing really good locally, and Etsy store was doing good. And I just started feeling led that this is time to kind of close one door and open another. And after a whole lot of prayer and talking with my wife, we finally made the decision to make the jump in May of 2021.
What was the initial? I'm sure you remember back to when you first started the YouTube stuff and the Etsy stuff. Did you just kind of get that idea, or were you crafting some things and then folks said, "Hey, I'd like to buy that," and it just kind of grew on itself, or did you make a concerted effort to make that work?
When I first started woodworking, it was out of complete necessity. We were extremely, extremely broke, even though we got a state job or whatever. It doesn't pay the greatest, or didn't then anyway. They've gotten quite a few raises since then. But we was just broke, and I didn't have any way to make any extra money. Working full time, but I was working swing shift, and
Hmm.
so a lot of times I was, working the evening shift, and I was here by myself after the kids went to school. My wife went to work, so I was just sitting around playing on the internet one day, and just I guess the Lord showed it to me a video of a YouTuber called Jay Bates. He's also a woodworker, and he had a set of outdoor chair plans. He showed how to build them, and he had the plans for free on his website. So I went and downloaded them. I looked at them. I said, I think I can make that. So I borrowed a circular saw and a couple of drills. And while my wife was at work one day, I went to the store and grabbed some 2x4s and slapped that stuff together. And she come home and she thought it was hers. I was surprising her because I had it in the garage when she pulled up. And I was like, no, I'm selling these. I said, we need to make some money. And so she helped me stage them up. If it hadn't been for her helping me stage them, I'd have never sold them. But she made them look right, put a rug under them, flowers
Sure.
on the table and drinks on the table, and made them look real nice and inviting. So we posted those online for $150. I think I had probably $40 in materials in it, and they sold like within a day. And so I just repeated the process, went and bought some more stuff, made the same thing. And I just kept selling those over and over until somebody asked if I could make a bench. And then I made that. Then somebody asked, can you make an end table? I had no idea how to make an end table. I was like, yeah, I can do that. So I figured it out along the way. And then over time, that stuff really took off. The Etsy store took off when my wife was asking. I had put stuff on there. It wasn't really getting any traction. And at the time, I had no idea what to do on Etsy. And one of the main things is you have to make yourself stand out somehow because there's
Mhm.
thousands and thousands of people selling the same stuff. And so she wanted what they call a stove cover or a noodle board. And a lot of people, we use our stove, but a lot of people don't. And they put this cover over their stove for extra counter space, basically, or storage. Anyway, she come up with her own designed the handle design that was way different than everybody else. And so I made her one, and I took really good pictures of it and put that on my Etsy store. And I don't know, it took probably a month or so before those took off. But man, when they took off, they took off. It got to where every time I heard the cha-ching from Etsy, I was like, oh man, not another one. And they were selling like crazy and did really well for us.
Well, that's neat. Whenever you have a spouse that's in it with you like that and is supportive and is coming, contributing and whatnot and helping where they can, that always makes it more exciting because you're doing it together versus just something you're doing by yourself.
Oh, it makes a huge difference. If it hadn't been for her, I wouldn't be talking to you today.
So you're making the stuff on Etsy, it's taken off. What's your plan? Or are you just kind of taking one step at a time as far as, all right, well, now I'm going to team up with, this company, or I'm going to rep these tools. How does that all kind of start to play out?
It was happy accident. So I was just at first I had another YouTube channel called Scanning Arkansas. What was it called? Scanning Arkansas. I think so. I forgot now. Monitoring reviews. That's what it was. So I was really big into radio scanners and
Mm.
like police scanners and stuff like that before I became a police officer. I was a firefighter and I was just dreaming of being a police officer. So I was just sitting around listening to the scanner all day, right? And so I got really big into those things, and I actually got into contact with one of the product managers with Uniden and GRE at the time made scanners, and they were sending me beta units or alpha units. Like they're not even released yet; they're just working the bugs out. And so I was testing scanners and stuff. Anyway, so when the public release come out, I had enough knowledge about them. I made videos on them. They were really bad videos, but I was putting them on that channel, monitoring reviews, and that channel was making me like $100 a year. And if you know anything about YouTube, that's not very good money. Like I
Mhm.
was getting very few views, wasn't making a whole lot of money, but that's where I used some of that money to buy or I did use $100 that I got paid to buy the 2x4s to make my first outdoor chair set. My thought was, man, if I could just make another $100 a year on YouTube with the woodworking, that'd be awesome. Like seriously, I had no idea that it could literally change your life. And so I just started putting what I was doing on YouTube about woodworking and tools and things like that. So that's really how the YouTube and the tool stuff started.
The the thing that I always see when, I try and grow this channel and I'm always soaking up YouTube videos and listening to stuff when I drive an hour to work and whatnot. They're always talking about you just have to start. You just have to start making the videos or the podcasts, and you're gonna not be very good when you start, but that's how you grow. You'll get better over time. Is that kind of your approach, or did you have a different kind of plan laid out?
110%. That was my approach. I had no plan. I didn't know anything about YouTube. I didn't know anything about the algorithm. I didn't know anything about thumbnails, about video. I knew nothing. All I knew is I had a phone that would take a video and I put it on a little tripod and got started. And like you said, the biggest thing is to start. You'll figure it out from there. If you look at my first video, you'll say this guy's never going to make it on YouTube. He's terrible. I wouldn't show my face. I was too scared. I didn't want the people at work to see me. I didn't want my family to see me. I didn't want friends to see me. I was worried that they would judge me or talk bad about me for being on video or whatever. So the first couple of videos, I wasn't even on camera. And then when I was on camera, when I started out, I was real monotone and very, very withdrawn because it was nerve wracking. Like I was nervous.
Hmm.
And then as time goes on, you can look at a year later and say, okay, there's a big difference. You could look at another year later. Okay, there's another big difference. Even a year from now, and I feel like I'm extremely comfortable on camera, and I felt like I was then too a year ago. You can see a difference. And it's just, it's just more practice, and you get better at it.
How do you decide what is going to be your next project? Do you have people that when they email you, because I'm sure you get inundated with emails and comments, is if there's a trend of folks wanting to know a certain table that's in style or something, or do you do projects that you personally are interested in, or both?
Well, so I don't do a whole lot of projects, very few actually anymore, just because the channel has taken on a life of its own. And so, beginning on, yeah, I would just take on projects when people would just send me a message, it's usually on
Hmm.
Facebook or something. And they would just send me a picture they saw on, a website somewhere, and they're like, "Can you make this?" And I could look at it and say, "Yeah, I can do that," or "No, I don't think that's something I want to tackle." And that's kind of really how all the custom projects come along. Is just they somebody reach out and say, "Can you do this?" And most of the time I didn't know if I could or not, but I figured I could give it a good shot. And so that's kind of how I started out doing the projects. And then as time went on, especially after the channel took off, the Etsy store's doing good and everything. And I told my wife I had one video go viral. I say viral, it hit 1 million views in a little while. maybe a few weeks, and I saw the potential. It just opened my eyes, and I thought, man, I need to double down on this. Like, this is the way, this is how it's going to go. And I don't know why I thought that. I just had that feeling like this is what I should be doing. And so I just pretty much at that point, I told my wife, I was like, I need to give up the stove covers because they're taking up way too much time and focus on making videos. And she's like, okay. And at the time, that was a significant amount of money coming in from Etsy. And so that's kind of where we, took a loss up front because all that went away as soon as I just took them all down off the listings down and then started focusing on videos. I was still doing projects, but over time, it's really transitioned into more tool related content because watching the data and the analytics and everything, you make a build video or you make a tool video, and that just overall majority of the tool videos do way better than the build videos we're doing. So I kind of transition that way.
How does because initially you're going to be purchasing these tools yourself, right? And then you're going to do the review, or did you have people sending you stuff to review, or was it a mix?
It's been a mix, but it's heavily us. Still today, I still purchase 95% of the tools that I show on the channel. A lot of people think that the channel's 100% sponsored, or companies are just flooding you with product. And while they probably would, certain ones probably would send them to me. One of the things that I have been very cautious about is taking those products simply because their ask is usually more than I want to give, right? They wanted me to. So when you reach a certain point, you have a certain amount of reach and you understand that. And if they send me a $300 saw and I put a video out that gets 1 million views, it's a way lopsided deal there. I mean, the company winds up with this massive amount of publicity that they would have literally spent tens of thousands of dollars in ad revenue, ad placements, getting that product in front of their customers. And then if I'm trading it for $300, it's not really a fair trade. And so usually, unless the company that I've already made good relationships with and stuff, they'll send me and say, hey, do you want to take a look at this? And if it's something I think the audience would be interested in, then I'll take it. But 99% of those I don't even keep. We usually give those away in regular giveaways because there's no way to keep all this stuff. If even the stuff we're buying, we do regular giveaways on the channel and through our social medias and stuff, just trying to pass it on, just helping other people out as we can.
When you look back on your journey so far, do you see any missteps or things that, we can't live in the past, of course, but if you went back and thought, I kind of wish I would have done that differently? Or is the journey what's kind of made you what you are?
Yeah, I think it's the journey, really. I mean, if I could change anything and go back and change anything, I would have just took YouTube serious sooner instead of kind of throwing spaghetti against the wall and just hoping to make $100 a year. I just had no idea. I mean, if you don't know what you don't know, and I had zero idea. Over the years, though, like even before the video took off, I was watching various people on YouTube teaching how to do YouTube, and Think Media is a really good one. Daryl
I
Eves,
watched
and so I was watching them, and they were giving tips and advice and things like that, and I was trying to implement them as much as I could, and that stuff paid off dividends over a long period of time. I have a very obsessive personality, so once I go down that path, I'm on it, and so I would eat, breathe, and sleep trying to figure out how to do YouTube better over and over and over until something hit. Still trying to figure it out. It's always changing though.
Are you the one, is it just really you and your wife, or do you have a team now of folks that you have working for you, or how does that play out?
It's my wife and I here at the house. She was a school teacher and was able to leave her full-time job and come home and help us. We ship products and things like that out of here. And so she does all the shipping, all the bookkeeping and all that stuff. And I also, we do have editors. I have a guy that does my short videos for Instagram and YouTube shorts. Basically just taking up my long videos and breaking them down into shorts. And then I have a long form video editor, the full time.
What is it that you like most about being a full-time YouTuber and content creator like you are now?
You just living the dream, man. You don't basically answer to anybody. You kind of live your own rules, your own hours. Main thing is just being able to literally spend time with my wife, because we always said, we're like, man, I wish somebody would just pay us to love each other, And now it feels like we're getting to do that because I know there's some couples that just they couldn't be around each other 24/7,
Mhm.
365 days a year. But it is very, very rare that we spend more than 30 minutes apart at any given time. She may go to the store without me, grab some groceries or whatever for 30 minutes or an hour, but that's it. Like we've always been that way. We like to travel together. All of our activities are together. I don't go golfing or fishing or anything like that and away from her. And so everything that we do is together. And so it's been a huge, huge blessing for us to be able to spend this time together.
That's awesome. It's always nice when you're married to someone that you enjoy.
Yeah, no doubt.
What would you say that the flip side of that coin, what would you say that you dislike most about your line of work? There's always one aspect that's not your favorite.
Yeah, I think it's the work's never done type thing. It's one of those things that you can put in as much as you want, and like the obsessive personality. Back to that, I just it's hard to unplug and stop. Even watching TV or whatever at night, you a lot of people using their phones or laptops or iPads in their lap, scrolling around, and I'm constantly like looking for a video idea or a title idea. I see, sports. I watch sports videos and things like that. I'll see a video on sports and they'll have a really cool title. I'm like, man, I could really use that on a video about this or that. And so I'll, bookmark that title somewhere. And that's probably the worst part of it. But I mean, it's minor stuff. I've had this is the best job I've ever had, and there's very few things I dislike about it.
Hmm. What soft skills do you think would allow someone to be successful in the vein that you're in? As far as you strike me, you've mentioned you're very tenacious. You're very kind of latch on to something and you go for it. But is there any other personality traits that you think would lend it well?
Having discipline is the main thing. I see people start something and after a few videos or a few episodes or whatever they're doing, they just give up. And it's it's kind of natural. Even woodworking, you see people get into it, they buy all the tools, they spend all this money, and then they don't make the sales they thought they were going to make in the first couple of months. And like this stuff takes time. It takes time to learn how to market stuff. YouTube and selling products is very similar. You have to learn how to market things. You have to learn what your audience wants or what your customer wants, how to talk to those customers. It's just one of those things that just takes time. And the only way to get there is to learn how to do it. And the only way to do that is to stick with it. And it's not always going to be easy. Like even today, I released a video today and it was 8 out of 10. YouTube shows you your last 10 videos, how they're doing. And that bums me out. I hate if it's not 5 or above, I get bummed out. I can't stand it. But it's part of it. Like everything can't be a number one, and everything's not going to be a huge hit. Like unless you're Mark Rover or one of those guys that just you know can't do wrong. But I'm sure even them would tell you they'll see that they'll put one out and they didn't do as good as their last 5 or whatever, and they get all up in their mind about it. But it's one of those things you just got to stick with stuff and just trust the process. I kind of think of YouTube as compound interest. I put out a
Oh,
video today, and just because it doesn't do very well today doesn't mean in a week, a month, a year. I've even had videos that were out well over a year all of a sudden go from 50,000 views total to 600,000 views in just a couple of months. And
hmm.
so you never know when the algorithm finds the right person or the right group of people and serves that video up. It could be just because it could be I tweaked a thumbnail or a title or something along the way, and it popped off or whatever. It's all compound interest, and some of the money's coming from affiliate marketing and things like that, like affiliate links in the description. So if they click and go buy a tool, I'll get a commission off of it. I got 1,400 videos on the channel. I mean, that's all compound interest. I made a video 6 years ago about a saw, and that video is still getting seen. And then somebody clicks and buys that product, and I get a small commission off that. And you times that over 1,400 videos, it starts to add up. And it's only because of discipline and sticking with it. It's the only reason it's still there.
If someone said, I'm thinking about, taking the leap and stepping into YouTube or whatnot, this question, I don't know, it almost seems like you're admitting defeat from the beginning, but do you tell people give it a year or give it a year and a half or really dedicate yourself for 6 months before you throw in the towel? Because sometimes the idea just may not be a good one and you might need to tweak it or just go back to the drawing board. But what do you say to folks that are initially wanting to go out? How much time should they give it before they step back and take a hard look at it?
Man, my channel didn't take off for 3.5 years. I mean, it
Wow.
it was it was a long time. Of course, again, I wasn't taking it that serious. Like if somebody's serious about it, they could probably get one off the ground pretty quick. I've seen
Mm.
people do it, but you just got to start understanding. Well, first you got to pick what you're going to make videos about, right? And then from there, you have to understand what the audience wants to see inside of that niche that you're talking about targeting. But I mean, if my main thing is to tell what I tell people when they ask me about it is to start making videos about whatever you're interested in. Somebody else is probably interested in it too, and just try to stay consistent. It doesn't matter if it's one video a month, one video over 2 weeks, whatever. You just got to be consistent with it and hold yourself accountable to that. Because and also don't also overcommit. Like, I'm going to do one video a week. That's pretty hard. We're putting out 2 videos a week, but also got a full-time editor, and so
Yeah.
it's one of the things that's very, very difficult to keep that pace. And so make sure that while you have a wife, a kids, a full-time job, like, pace yourself, understand it's going to, be a process, but also understand that one video can change your life. It changed mine. Like, I had one video pop off 3.5 years in, and it literally changed my life. And so it's one of those things that there's no other thing on the internet like YouTube at all. TikTok's not like it. Instagram's not like it. Facebook's not like it. YouTube is the only one that has evergreen content that if somebody searches something or even jumps on YouTube one day and then there your video is in front of them, that they can watch it. Instagram doesn't do that. TikTok doesn't do that. Facebook doesn't do that. So YouTube is its own thing. And so I think it's the greatest social media platform that you can get a part of because of how much money you can make off of it. I mean, just ad revenue alone. And then there's other opportunities there too. But I would just say, if you're interested, go for it, pace yourself, and understand it could take some time.
Is there any advice that you would give for folks when they're dealing with the ad revenue and things like that? Are there common pitfalls that, when you get your first offer for some kind of a deal, you in a rush to make that money and feel like you're successful, you may forget to read the fine print? Are there any common pitfalls that you've seen that you would, warn people about?
Yeah, I mean, the company's always going to try to, for the most part, benefit themselves more than you. It
Mm.
just depends on the size of your channel, how many views. It's typically what they're looking for is average view counts. Like, you can take your last 10 videos, how many average views you got. And so it just depends on those numbers as to how much money you can get off of different sponsors. I've asked for way too little money many, many times. And then I've also over asked and they're like, okay, thank you. But I would rather them say, okay, thank you, than me to get underpaid on that kind of stuff.
Mhm.
But yeah, just make sure you read the contracts and also hold them accountable to the contracts. I had a company, I was doing ads for a company, and so it was a company where they could sign up for certain things. And so if so many people sign up using my link, I was supposed to get bonuses along the way. And the contract stated after, I think it was 35 signups, I get a certain amount. After the next amount, I got an amount. And so I had like a 6 video deal with them. After like the third video, I hit the thing, and they didn't say anything about the bonus. And so I reached out. I was like, "Hey, I didn't say anything about the bonus." They're like, "No, it's per video. You have to have that many signups per video." I said, "That's not what the contract says. The contract says this many total." And I said, "You can't go outside the 4 walls of that contract." And so we went back and forth. I wound up having to pull all the ads off the videos because you can edit videos afterwards on YouTube,
Mhm.
cut things out. You can't add things to. And so I wound up pulling all their ads down, and it took me forever to get paid what they was owing me, but they were just trying to give me the runaround. So just make
Mm.
sure you're watching those things. But that wasn't a tool company either. Most tool companies are going to want an exchange from what I've experienced so far. They just want an exchange for the product video. And early on, it's not a bad thing. If you need a dust collector and this company's willing to send you a $500 dust collector and you can, make a video about it, probably not going to get a ton of views on it unless you're already established and doing really good. But you can get you a free tool and do a review on it. It's not a bad trade off sometimes. But again, when you start growing your audience and getting more and more views, and I think it's a little unfair to get a $3, $4, $500 tool in exchange for a video that's on average going to get 100,000 or more views.
Yeah. As you've gone through this journey, you've made mistakes. We all do as human beings. What is your best advice on how to deal with failure when you encounter it?
Just keep going. I mean, like I said a while ago, failure comes along pretty regularly on YouTube. You're going to put out a video or you're going to put out a product. If you're selling products, you're going to put out a product that just nobody buys. Same thing YouTube. Nobody's buying the video. In other words, nobody's clicking on it. Maybe you picked the wrong topic. Maybe you picked the wrong title. Maybe you took the wrong thumbnail, whatever. And just keep on keeping on. You can be bummed out for a little bit. Typically, how I handle it is I'm pretty bummed out most of the day. I usually release my videos on Thursdays and Sundays at about 10 or 11 a.m. The rest of the day, I'm bummed if the video's a 10 out of 10 or the worst it can be. But, the next morning when I wake up, it's all good. Like, on to the next one. Because, again, compound interest. That's one of thousands, right? And so you can't hang your hat on one video or one product. When we was woodworking, when I was building products, I built a outdoor chair set and I painted them a weird blue color. I don't know why. Put them on. I put nice pictures out. Nothing. I couldn't sell them. I had those things for months and months and months on my deck because I could not sell them. Literally was trying to give them away, like the bare minimum price, like what I had in them. Couldn't give them away. While I was selling the other ones that were unfinished, like nothing on them, I was selling those like hotcakes. And so, you're going to have those things that you do that just aren't going to sell. People just don't want it. You made a bad choice. You made a wrong decision. It's fine. It's just one of many. And my wife always says, if it's made of wood, it's not set in stone. So you can just rebuild it.
So talk to me about Faith Valley Tools. That's a little bit different venture for you, is it not?
Yep. So we wanted to have some physical products and also benefit Christian missions. And one of the reason that I went full time on YouTube is because I believe God was calling me to do it. And so we just kept getting these messages, people watching the videos. I wear Christian shirts in every video, and that like resonates with people, not Bible thumping people, not preaching to people, just subtle. And they would reach out, they would email, "Hey man," I had a police officer from Florida email and say, "Hey, I was thinking about committing suicide. I don't woodwork. I don't do any type of DIY stuff. And for whatever reason, your video showed up and I saw your shirt and it just crushed me." And he said, I'm just emailing, you saved my life. And I believe God's using the videos for that. Even though we're tool reviews, we're doing, projects or tips and tricks or whatever. There's a link in the description on every video that shares the gospel story. And people watch that, like hundreds of thousands of people have watched that over the years. And so we're using that. So to continue that mission, we started Faith Valley Tools, my wife and I. And so the idea is we take 10% of all the profits from Faith Valley Tools and donate them to Christian missions. Right now we're donating to Proverbs 22:9. They have outreach school and feeding kids and things like that in the Philippines. The lady that started this actually from our home church. And so we are proud to sponsor them. And that's just a way for us to continue God's mission to help people.
I'm looking on their website right now. The Proverbs229.com is how you can follow up with that ministry if you feel led to donate. You've got a Live Edge podcast as well. Man, you are a busy fella.
We are very busy. Very busy.
What was the drive? You're going in all these different avenues. Do you ever feel like I've got enough on my plate, or is it just a joy to just keep going?
Oh, it's always we've got enough, and then we add another spoonful. We started it's actually a live stream on the channel that also turns into an audio podcast, right? And so we started the live stream. I have no idea why. I really don't. It was December 4 years ago. My wife and I decided to start a live stream. I really don't know why we did. It's called Live Edge, but of course it goes to all the podcast platforms too. Every Tuesday night at 7 p.m. we do the live stream, and it has been one of the greatest joys we've ever done on the channel because we have the people that come and hang out with us for 30 minutes or an hour every Tuesday have become some of our best friends. Like we have met and like literally have met them in person now. People that have watched our videos for years. Like some of them just only watch the live stream. They don't watch the regular videos, and some of them watch everything. But it's been one of the greatest community building things that we could have. Now, with that said, the live stream actually costs me about 20 to 50 subscribers every time I put one out. People see the hour long video or whatever and unsubscribe, or they can't separate the two. And so, we know that it's costing subscribers, but I think it's worth it because of the community and just the real interaction you can have with people. And the same people that were there on day one, the first live stream we ever had. We have jokes going all the way back to there. We got a guy we call Lloyd's in the house because his name is Ronnie, and he when he first popped on the screen, I saw his last name was Wagner Wagner, and there's an old Golden Girls episode. He says Lyle Wagner's in the house, and I mispronounced it Lloyd on that episode, and so now he even calls himself Lloyd. Every time he chimes in, he says Lloyd's in the house. Like we're going back 4 years, and we just make some really good friends. Got to meet him in Kansas City a while back, hug his neck, and just have a good time with them, and have some people from Canada we actually met in Boston, and got to talk to them for a while, and just make some really good friends. I think it's just an excellent community building thing.
Was there any adjustment with starting to get your face recognized and a little bit of the recognition that comes along with being so successful on your different social media sites and on YouTube and whatnot? Was that
Yeah.
an adjustment for you?
Yeah, it's pros, cons, and weirdness, right? And so, uh, like it's very humbling when we've been, people come up to us in airports pretty regular, almost every time we fly somewhere, and they'll kind of, you could tell that they're looking
Yeah.
at you and they know you. They're like trying to place you a lot of times,
Mhm.
and they're like, "Are you 731?" And so you get to meet people like that. It's very cool. Or on the airplanes, like I was sitting behind a guy one day, and we was getting up, and he turned around, and he said, "You're 731, aren't you?" I said, "Yes, sir." Hey, I watch you all the time, and so I get to talk to them. It's really cool. It's really cool. It's also very humbling. Um, has some cons. People showing up at your house uninvited. It's not okay.
Yeah.
I'm very private anyway, and we've had people reach out way ahead of time and say, "Hey, we're traveling through your town, and next month or 2 months from now, would love to meet you." And just kind of fill them out from there. Had one guy that I was a police officer I had just left. It was probably June or July of the year I left the state police. So I still had really good contacts here in the city. Guy calls me. He's like, "Hey, man." Well, I'll back up. I got a message on Facebook. I saw it pop up. It says, "Hey, I'm in Texarkana. It's like 3 hours away." He said, I'm close to your house. You mind if I stop by?" And I didn't answer it. I was like, no, it's a long way. Guess what? 3 hours later, I see this box truck drive in front of my house. I'm like, and we live in a cul-de-sac. I'm like, he's creeping by. I'm like, hmm. Then he drives out of the cul-de-sac real slow. I was like, huh. About 10 minutes later, I get a call from a police officer, and I picked it up, and he says, "Hey, man, there's this guy up here wanting to come see you." He said, "Man, this dude, I don't know." And I was like, "I don't either." He said, "What do you want me to tell him?" I was like, "I mean, he already knows where I live. I saw him drive by a while ago. Just tell him, come on." And so, being a former police officer, I was not unarmed. And so, when
Yeah.
he shows up, he didn't know it, but his dude was probably as high as I've been around somebody. He was probably on some meth or something. I don't know. He was pretty wired up,
Hmm.
and I could tell that he was impaired on something. And he was just jittery and just made me all kinds of nervous. And so, and we had that happen not too long ago. Like a guy he looked up our address on the internet somehow, and he knocks on the door one morning. It was like 8 o'clock in the morning. I was like, "You expect somebody?" She said, "No." Open the door. He says, "Hey, is this 731?" "Yes, sir." "Okay, I've been watching you a while," and like almost trying to come. I was like, "Let's step on outside, man. I don't know you." It's
Good
different.
grief.
It's very different. But I've heard that happen to most everybody that starts getting a little bit of traction. You'll start
Mhm.
getting people wanting to come meet you and stuff, which I understand. And in a public setting, we're 100% okay with. We do live in person events a few times a year to try to get out and meet people because we love meeting people and getting to hear their stories and all that stuff. It's really great. But I don't know. I would just prefer somebody to reach out first before you knock on my door.
Yeah. Well, on one hand, it's flattering, but they're just not executing that flattery in the correct way. So,
It is. I mean, it's flattering, and so far, I mean, the guy was a little hyped up, the one guy, but he
sure.
wasn't. It didn't mean no ill harm or anything like that. But on the other hand, if you see some of the comments, the emails, the messages we get privately, you would understand why we're a little bit leery. I mean, we get
Mm.
some pretty nasty stuff just from just random people. I don't, people are not always in the best mood or whatever. Had some guy email me say he watches my video and points me out to his son and tells him never to be like me. I was like, "What did I
Hmm.
do to you, man?" And
Good
but you
grief.
also get those, tell me that I shouldn't be married to my wife, or just weird stuff. And sometimes people come at you. And one time, I'll sometimes I ignore it, and sometimes I'll reply back. One guy emailed, and he was pretty riled up and let me know how bad I was, and I replied back, and I was like, "Hey, man, I'm really sorry you feel that way. I really am." And I said, I don't know what I did to offend you, but I apologize. I said, but just know I prayed for you today. I sent that email. Like 2 days later, he emails me back, and he apologized profusely. He had lost his mom that day, and it was just lashing out basically at everybody. His mom had passed away that same day, and he was probably just distraught, and you never know what people are dealing with. But then sometimes they're just, you know, idiots for the lack of a better word. They're just, they just want to cause chaos, or bring everybody down. And you see this, there's several on my channel that comment, pretty regularly how terrible of a person I am. And they just, just constant, once every couple of weeks, they'll bash out or whatever. I got some guy on the internet now making videos about me and a couple other people. He's on YouTube, but he doesn't got a following or anything, but he's constantly making videos about me, how terrible a person I am. Like, it's just strange, very
Wow.
strange.
Well, what's next for 731 Woodworking and for Matt Outlaw? What's on the horizon? You got any big things in store?
We're just gonna keep on trucking, man. This is everything's going good. I like the direction of the channel. I like how everything's tracking along. We plan to hire a person here for our business for shipping for 731 and Faith Valley stuff, to be able to help out with shipping and some content creation, or at least take some load off of me on different things. If he decides to leave his other job, he would be starting July 1st. So that would be cool. But we just want to keep growing Faith Valley Tools, keep adding products there, and keep doing what the Lord leads us to do.
Well, I'm sure everybody knows it, but go ahead and tell us all the different places that they can find you.
731woodworks.com, posting tool deals there every day. All the social media platforms is at 731 Woodworks.
Okay. Matt, thanks for your time today. I really do appreciate it. It was great to get a little bit of history into someone that we all watch and enjoy on YouTube. So thanks for your time.
Hey, appreciate you having me.
All right, take care. And that wraps up another episode of the Jobs Podcast. Thank you so much for joining me today. Hopefully you found that interesting. As always, I wait until the end of an interview to ask you to like, subscribe, and share. I feel it's important that I earn that support from you. Thanks again, and we will see you on the next one.